I was 23 years old, and I was living with my parents at the time. I had recently been divorced, and I had 2 small kids. So I was trying to figure out a way to make my life work. On the night of June 30th, 1983, early evening, I was preparing to go help a friend cut some patterns out. She was a seamstress, and she used to give me spending money to help her cut patterns. I was standing at the kitchen window washing my hands before I left, and I noticed that there was a light on in the pump house of the swimming pool. And I said something to my mom. I'm like, hey, there's the light on in the pump house. And I know I turned it off when I was out there earlier. And she said, don't worry about it. Your dad will get it when he gets home, because he works second shift at the Ford plant down there. And so he was off to work. And I said, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I'm sure. Don't worry about it. There was something about that light that I couldn't put my finger on at the time that rubbed me the wrong way. There was just something not right. Anyway, it was eating on my mind. A few minutes later, I went outside down to the front drive and got my car and was fixing to leave. And I thought at the last minute, you know what? I think I'm going to go down that side driveway and then just take a loop around the turnaround in front of Dad's workshop, just so I can have a good look at the back of the house. Just make sure everything looked copacetic. Because Daddy had Indian motorcycles and Alpine Sunbeam race cars and everything back in this workshop that he was restoring. There's a lot of money back there. And I'm about to leave my mother with my 2 little kids, even though I'm only going to be 1 street over. So I did the turnaround, had a look, didn't see anything amiss, but I did notice that the pedestrian door to the garage was open. But instead of stopping, I just went on over to Deanna's house, all of 2 minutes, called Mom and said, hey, the pedestrian door to the garage is open. Do you want me to come home? She's like, no, don't worry about it. Your dad will get it when he gets home. My mom she was never flustered with anything. Mom was cool as a cucumber. I said, okay, if you're sure. So I hung up, and then she called right back. And as soon as she heard my voice, she said, I need you to come home right now. And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? My friend's husband heard my voice. He said, tell her to call the police. That's what we pay him for. And she heard him, and she said, no, I don't want anyone here but you. I'm like, okay. So I went back home a couple more minutes, and I was there, pulled up that side drive again, and I got out. This time I parked there and got out and went into the Florida room right next to the driveway. Mom was in there. And I grabbed the shotgun that Dad had kept behind the trash compactor. And my mom said, that's not loaded, right? And I'm like, it better not be, because that was one of the things that we talked about when I moved in. Yes, I know, but whoever is out there doesn't. And I'm thinking in my head, I can get close enough to them with this and hit them with it before they figure out it ain't loaded, Now it's dark out. I walk to the pump house and everything looks okay. I walk back and have a look at the workshop just to make sure all the doors are closed and everything looks normal. Dad had a ladder truck parked out front for his electrical contracting company he did on the side, and I found my dog underneath there. She wouldn't come out. She acted like she was scared of something. So then I walked back around the swimming pool, back across the yard, and into the open pedestrian door of the garage that was attached to the house. While I'm in there, and I'm thinking, if there's anybody out here and they're hiding, this would be the last place they'd be hiding. And as I'm standing in there, all of a sudden, I get this overwhelming feeling of anxiety, and this fear washes over me, and I feel all tingly and on fire, and I think, oh my God, I got to get out of here right now. And I run to the doorway, and as soon as I hit this doorway, man, something hits me right here, right in the chesty belly area right there. And it's like a white fist of light, and it's so intense, and it just washes over me, and I can't see anything but this light is so bright, it's burning my eyes. It hurts. I can feel it crawling through my chest, down my arms, down my legs, down my spine, around my head, and I start shaking. And the shaking turns into vibrating, and the vibrating turns into me feeling like I'm going to blow apart molecule by molecule. And still, I can't see anything but this white, bright light. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm dead. I'm dead. And as soon as I thought that, I heard this voice say it was unfortunate that I felt pain. I was now no longer in the doorway, but I was outside about 10 feet onto the concrete patio back there. I still can't move. I don't know how I got from the doorway out there onto the patio. And I see all this movement in front of me, but my eyes are blasted. I had this massive white splotchiness in my vision. So between it being dark out and between that, I could barely make out things. I couldn't see clear detail, but I could see movement in front of me. And I was finally able to see what I thought were kids in my mom's backyard. And I remember thinking, what are these kids doing in my mom's backyard? As soon as I had that thought, because I thought, oh my God, my kids are in this house and I don't know what's going on. This was crazy. Oh my God, my kids. This voice says, your children are fine. And I calmed down a little bit. At some point, I remember feeling someone pulling behind me down on my shoulder. And then I feel this burning sensation in my ear. And then as these kids are all moving from different places in the yard, they kind of line up by the corner of the driveway where the driveway meets the gate fence for the pool. There were 6 of them, and they just kind of slid down across the yard in front of me, towards me, but not at me, like slid down. And that was when I saw the thing in the yard to my left, maybe 25 feet in front of me, but off to the left a little bit. And as soon as I saw that thing, I don't even know where those kids went. I don't remember seeing them go in this thing. I don't remember seeing what happened to them, because when I saw this thing, I was like, scared the shit out of me. It was shaped like an egg. Wasn't much bigger than the pump house swimming pool. And I was guesstimating maybe 10 feet or 12 feet tall, maybe, or maybe a little more, I don't know. The base of it, maybe 8-9 feet in diameter, a little bit fatter in the middle, because it was like an egg sitting on the fat bottom part with the pointy part up. And there were these real skinny things coming off of it into the ground. But they didn't look strong enough to be weight bearing. I don't know what they were for. And then I noticed there's a ball of white light about the size of a basketball, maybe 25 feet in front of me. And it's as high up off the ground as I am tall. I'm 5'2". I don't think it's connected to the egg-shaped thing, but I'm not sure. And it went down really, really slow, and then it came back up and stopped where it had started. And at that point, I hear another voice, but this one was different, and it called my name. And as soon as it called my name, it was like, bam, everything was gone. It was dark. The kids were gone, the egg thing was gone, and my memory of it was going away quickly. And I turned towards the voice. I started walking to the steps that led to the upper patio, which was where the kitchen porch was. And there's my mom. She got her head out the door, and she's hollering at me, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" And I remember saying to her, "Everything's cool." But I'm thinking now, I don't know what just happened, but I feel weird. I feel gross. I wanted to get wet. I felt like I needed to take a bath or get in the pool. I got the idea to call my friend and said, "Hey, instead of sewing, you'll want to come swim." And so her and her daughter came over, and the 3 of us walked across the yard to the pool. As we're walking across the yard, her daughter steps on something in the grass. We're checking her foot for a bee sting. Didn't see anything. Got all in the swimming pool because her mom was like, well, maybe the cool chlorinated water, will help it feel better if you stepped on something that stung you. So we're probably in the pool about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we start feeling nauseous. Eventually they go home. I'm seeing halos around the lights, which is weird, and my eyes are burning, and I got a real bad headache. And so I went in and I went to bed. And when I woke up the next morning, my eyes were swollen completely shut. And I was in excruciating pain. So my mom took me to the emergency room. Same hospital where I'd had my children. Ophthalmologists don't typically hang around emergency rooms. But this day, in this time when I got there actually was one in there. I don't know why he was there, but when I came in with the eye issues, they brought him in to see me. And he asked my mother, "Can you maybe bring her across the road to my office? My office is just across the street. I have more equipment there. I can give her a better exam, see what's going on." And Mom said, "Sure." I said, "That's fine. I'm okay with that." So we went across there. He gave me a really thorough exam, and then he says to me, "Have you looked into the arc of a welder's torch? Have you been anywhere where there's been an eclipse? Have you looked at the sun?" And I'm thinking to myself, why are you asking me these weird questions? No, I did not tell him about the bright light or the egg-shaped thing or the little kids or anything, because at that point, that was completely blocked off. I had feelings. I had high anxiety. I wasn't able to go to the bathroom, in the bathroom upstairs at night where the window was. And later I realized that window was the window that overlooked the mark in the yard. And the overwhelming fear I had when I went in there was that something was going to pull me out the window. And I spent the next couple of days not being able to sleep at night. And I sat up in the bedroom where my boys slept in twin beds. I sat in between their twin beds on the floor on pillows. Like I was waiting for something and protecting my kids. When the sun come up and I heard Mom and Dad get up, then I would just crash. It was a couple of days later when we saw the mark in the yard. All family was over there for 4th of July weekend celebration. My nephew came running in. He's like, "Grandma, what's wrong with your yard?" She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So we all went running out the back, and there it was, big as life. This big giant mark, this big round circle in the yard. And it had a long streak, like 49 feet long, went all the way across the backyard and ended up by where the driveway and the swimming pool gate met. And it was in a perfect arc. The strip was like 2 feet wide. The circle was about 8 feet in diameter. And there were two parts of it that were kind of shoved up, like the dirt was shoved up and there was big cracks in them. And all the grass in this mark was just laid over and beige colored. And the dirt itself was rock hard. My mom starts to like nervous giggle and she goes, "Oh, that's where our UFO landed the other night." No talk of UFO or alien or any of that beforehand. My mom couldn't even remember for a week why she called me home that night, and out of the blue she pops up a few days later. "Oh, I remember why I called you home. There was this basketball-sized ball of white light in front of the bird feeder, and it got smaller and smaller and smaller, and then as soon as it disappeared, that's when I had it in my head that you needed to come home." I looked at my mom when she said that, and I'm like, I thought to myself, what is wrong with you? I did not find it one bit funny, and I started shaking. And then I started staring at the mark in the yard, and then, man, everything, it was like somebody pulled the finger out of the dike and everything just came flooding back. I kept this to myself for a long time. I didn't tell anybody the thoughts and feelings I was having. Started having dreams at night, seeing them, dreams of other events that had happened. I had tried to read Bud Hopkins' book, Missing Time, months before in the library, but every time I tried to read it, I couldn't finish what I was reading because it would make me anxious. I'd have anxiety attack. It was just too much. I'm like, this can't be real. That book was one of the things I remembered that very day because I knew there was an address in the back where you could write to this guy. As I started remembering these things, I started rejecting them in my mind. Like, no, that's just crazy. I started to really try to figure out what could have caused this, right? I made phone calls. I went to the library and read up on stuff. I called the agricultural agent for the state of Indiana, talked to him about the mark in the yard. And then in the meantime, my dad is involved now. Him and my Uncle Jim, they got a Geiger counter out, tried to check this thing for radioactivity, which their Geiger counter never could get it to work around it. Dad was he had a ham radio tower near the area, and the coax cable that ran from his tower into the back of the house, which is where I was all of the wiring inside of it had melted together, and he was trying to figure out why that happened. It was probably a week after the event that the transformer that was on the power pole by the pump house exploded. And all kinds of paranormal activities started really kicking into the house, really strange too. Like lights would come on and off. We'd hear things, little footsteps like kids running up and down the stairs, but no one was there. We had a light bulb explode. The light bulb had exploded in the hanging lamp, dropped, all the broken glass dropped down right below the opening, and then shot across the room, and just weird stuff like this started happening in the house. We one day woke up, there was bees, thousands of bees in my kids' bedroom. There were globs hanging off the light fixtures, hanging off the curtains, all over the beds and the rugs. We don't know where they came from. I had things that would disappear in my room. We're like, what is happening? This is weird stuff. After I determined the fact that I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it was I needed help because I've got 2 kids to raise and I can't afford to lose my mind. And I can't find anybody near me who can help me. I could talk to a bunch of people who could tell me what it wasn't, but I couldn't find anyone tell me what it was or what it could be. And then I thought back to the book and all the things that Bud had written about in this book that I remembered that I could read. And I wrote him a letter. First thing, I've never written to an author in my life, never would have thought to ever, and I have never since. But I wrote him like this 14-page letter, and I described that whole night in 83 in June. And I described some of the strange things happening after that. And then I took a bunch of Polaroids of the backyard, of this mark that was now in the backyard. Maybe a month or so after my mom finally, or a few weeks after my mom finally mailed it, which she held onto it for a little while before she actually mailed it. He called. I sold my washer and dryer in storage to get enough money for a bus ticket. It was just enough money for a 1 round trip ticket to New York from Indianapolis. So I was on my way there. I never traveled much, definitely not traveled alone before this. So I was having anxiety just about that. But also it dawned on me about halfway there that I was going to meet somebody I never met, that I didn't know, some man. And he'd written a book about alien stuff. And I had second thoughts and almost got off the bus about halfway there, but didn't. When I got off the bus, there was Bud standing there with a bag of muffins in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other, smiling. I recognized him immediately from his picture. He introduced himself. He seemed so kind, and I felt comfortable very quickly after talking to him. Then he says, "Have you ever been on a subway before?" And I said, "No." So he took me on my first subway ride. But instead of taking me back to his studio, which his studio is attached to his apartment, and that's where he lives and everything, that's where I was going to be staying. But instead of going there first, he took me directly to Dr. Aphrodite Clamar's office in Manhattan there and introduced me to her. She was the psychologist who he'd been working with to study hypnotherapy. She was very kind and very nice and made me feel very comfortable. She showed me, she explained to me how hypnotherapy works. And then we went back to his studio and I met his family, and I think I was there several days before we tried the first time to be regressed. I don't think it was very successful. I don't think I actually really remembered anything I didn't already know consciously. When I left, we were just, planning to try to make arrangements for some testing to be done. And I was just to, keep him updated as to what's going on. And he was making plans to come then to Indiana. So he wanted to interview the family and neighbors, knock on some doors, maybe talk to some coworkers and stuff like that. The most memorable experience of that trip was actually the trip home. So I get on the bus, feeling anxious, and I'm thinking to myself, by God, I'm going to ride home with nobody in this seat. I don't care if I have to act like I'm asleep. So I lay down on the seat and pretend like I'm asleep. I get away with that till we get to like Pennsylvania. And I feel people coming on. I'm like, ugh. And I peeked up over the seat of the bus, and this man gets on. This man is absolutely gorgeous and perfect. And he's looking right at me as he's coming up the steps to get in the bus. And some military guys got on with their duffel bags. They were going home, whatever. So they all come back to the back part of the bus. And one of the military guys looks at me and he's like, "May I sit here?" I said, "Sure." And his buddy sat on the aisle across from us. And then the gorgeous guy sat down in front of them. And he was talking to these guys. And of course, since one of them was sitting next to me, I was kind of in there. And at some point he says, "There's an empty seat over here. If your friend would like to sit here in my seat, and I could sit with the young lady, and then you two could sleep." And I thought, oh my God, please say yes, please say yes. And and he said yes. So they switched around their seats, and I ended up with the gorgeous guy. So now my heart's pounding. Strikes up a conversation with me. "What are you doing in New York?" "Well, I'm not about to tell him. I'm going there to see some guy who wrote a book about aliens." So I just said to the guy, "Well, I'm just there to visit friends and doing a little looking around." He throws his head back and he says, "Oh, the extraterrestrials will love that." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he looked at me and he smiled and he laughed and he said, "Never mind." And then I was done. I was done for. It was like someone just snapped their fingers and I was in a full-blown trance with this guy. He asked me a lot of questions about myself. He asked me a lot of questions about my children. He made a comment about how it must be wonderful to have children. He told me a little bit about himself. He had a real singy-songy kind of accent. And I asked him where he was from. And he said he was from near Sweden. At one point, he asked me if he could kiss me. I said, okay. So he did. And he acted like it was the first time he'd ever kissed a person in his life. At one point, our bus stopped in the middle of nowhere, pulled over to the side of the road, like not even a bus stop. I get concerned and I say, "Oh, what is happening? Is there something wrong with the bus?" I saw the guy, the outside bus lights, the lights on the bus. I could see him walk out to the field, the bus driver. He's gone for a minute and then he came back and then off we went. Then we stopped at this bus stop. It looked like one of those round hotels with the lots of glass windows all the way around and lit up, and there was a little parking lot and everything, and gas pump off to one side. And everybody in the bus at this point is sound asleep except me and him. And I said, "I'm really hungry. I'm going to go get something to eat real quick." And I said, "Do you want to come?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine." And I climbed over him and I got off the bus. I went to this bus stop where they had a cafeteria-like food. There was two girls that looked like twins and an older man in there working. Bus driver got off with me. He was in there and he got a cup of coffee and he sat at a table. I was the only other person in this whole thing, this whole bus stop. And I went to the cafeteria and I got something to eat. I got a sandwich and something to drink. And I came and sat at a table and I started eating this food. I remember at one point looking up, because when you feel like somebody's looking at you, you kind of get that feeling. And I looked up and the older man and the two young girls were just standing by the cash register staring at me while I ate this crap. And then I went to the bathroom. As I walked into the bathroom and I opened the door of the bathroom, there's a mirror right in front of you when you walk in, right? When I looked up expecting to see myself, and instead I saw this white-haired lady with these big blue eyes and this real bright cobalt blue shirt on that I could see in the mirror. And I remember blinking and going, "What?" And when I looked again, it was just me. So we get to the bus stop in Columbus. That's where I get off and get on another bus to go to Indy. And he gets off that bus to go to another bus to go to Cincinnati. But we had like a little bit of a layover. And every bus stop in the country has a Burger King in it. So we decided to go to Burger King and get something to eat before we parted ways. While we're there, we go up to the window or up to the counter, and he is asking the girl, "What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this?" And she's telling him, and thank God they have a limited menu. They didn't have a lot of stuff. And he said, "Well, I'll just take one of everything." Then I got a sandwich and we went and sat down. He was eating, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I'm never going to see this guy again. And my heart, I felt like I wanted to cry. Immediately when I thought that, he goes, "Don't worry, I'll come back and get you one day." He said, "There's a big long silver trailer near you that I want to take you dancing." And I thought, well, how can you do that? You don't even have my phone number. And I thought this in my head. And he immediately says, "Give me your phone number." So I gave him my phone number. We're done eating, and he's like, "I don't feel good." And he's rubbing his stomach. And I go, "Well, probably because you ate all that food. Maybe if you go to the bathroom and throw up, you'll feel better." He says, "What's throw up mean?" I'm like, "You guys don't throw up in Sweden?" I said, "That's when your stuff in your stomach comes back out." And he goes, "Yeah, that might be what I need to do." I had some Pepto-Bismol tablets in my bag. And I said, "Here, chew a couple of these." And he says, "What are those?" And I told him what they were for. He goes, "Do you know what's in them?" And I said, "Well, I have the box. You can read the ingredients." So I gave him the box so he could read the ingredients. And he goes, "Oh, okay." Then he puts them in his pocket. And I said, "Well, you got to eat them." He goes, "Well, I'll take them later." I said, "Oh, okay." So then I said, "I got to go to the restroom." We walk to the bathroom. We're walking down this long hallway, and there's benches there, and there's newspaper machines. And he walks up to the newspaper machine. He said, "Do you have any coins that you can get one of these? You got to have a coin." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'll buy you a newspaper." So I got him a newspaper, and we're walking past this bench full of Amish people. And I swear to God, the look on their face when they saw him and I walk past them was of pure shock. So I go to the bathroom and I start to walk in the woman's restroom, and he starts coming in behind me, and I'm like, no, you can't come in here. This is for ladies. I said, "That's yours over there." And I showed him the picture of the guy with pants. I said, "You see the pants? That's you. The skirt, that's me." He goes, "Oh, okay, I get it." So I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, as soon as I opened the door, he's like standing right there, like he never moved. So then it's time to go. I'm getting really sad. Dude, I got a fiance at home, right? This is making no sense that I don't want to leave this guy. I would have followed him to the edge of the earth at that point. So he gave me the newspaper. He said, "Don't cry, read the paper, put your headphones on, listen to your music, and I will find you someday, I promise." And so I got in the bus. It was pouring down rain. I opened the newspaper up to a full 2-page ad of missing children. And I turned my headphones on, and the song starts playing out of the radio station in Columbus. It's called "True" by Spandau Ballet. And every word just goes into my soul. I called Bud. So I told him all the things I remembered about this guy, and he was able to find the place where this guy was staying and speak to his friend. And the friend indeed confirmed, A, he was a real person. B, he was very eccentric. He would disappear for years and no one would hear from him. And then he'd just show up out of the blue, like he was just there yesterday and would never tell you where he'd been or anything. He was staying with him and his family, and he was riding a motorcycle courier, help to pay for his, stay there. And that he was smitten with me, and that he had mentioned me multiple times, had talked about me, this girl on the bus. So he was real. He was a real person. And I ended up talking to him again on the phone one more time. And I had sent to the courier a little coin of hands clasping in friendship. I said, if you carry this, every time you look at it, you'll remember our bus trip. I'm telling myself that, he's obviously a human being. He's in a human body, but there was something extraordinary about him. How did he even say extraterrestrials when I said nothing? How did he know to ask for my phone number? And then the dreams that I had that he came in, I feel like As insane as it sounds, as irrational as it sounds, which I'm fully aware of, I feel in my heart of hearts that we had some kind of connection before I met him on the bus. And there was some connection with the non human intelligence that I had been having contact with. Yes, Bud Hopkins stayed at our house, at mom and dad's house. One of the first things that he wanted to do was actually see the mark in the yard. So we went out and looked at that. And then for the several days that he was there, it was just lots of time sitting around the kitchen table with coffee and him asking tons of questions. At one point, he tells my parents, "Well, I'm going to go and try to knock on a few doors and see if I can see if I can see if there are anybody else in the area that may have seen something that night." And it turns out that they did find two neighbors while Bud was there the first time that had witnessed something unusual, and another neighbor a few houses down further that actually didn't see anything that night in question, but reported having seen strange stuff in the area over the house there before we even moved in. So then he made arrangements for me to have psychological testing. I had verbal and written testing done when I went back to New York the next time, as well as those tests. The one where they put all the little wires on your head to see for epilepsy. And then I think it was a CAT scan of my head. Mind you, I didn't pay for any of this. Bud either paid for it out of his own pocket or he got donations to help pay for it or time donated or something. But he just felt it was really important to have all this information. And he was just methodically laying out the groundwork for this investigation. It would eventually take, a couple of years before he felt like he had enough evidence and data to put it all together and present it to the public. The results of the physical testing I did, like the EEG and the CAT scan, is my brain was normal. There wasn't any epilepsy or any reason why I would have hallucinations or anything else. The psychological testing results basically said I was not prone to delusions and I was not schizophrenic. Basically, the only thing they did feel confident with was that I was of above average intelligence and that I was exhibiting symptoms of PTSD and anxiety. When it was all said and done and the book was written, he got more well known and his work became more well known. He started to get bombarded letters from people from all around the world. And I remember one of the last times I was in his studio. His studio, there were boxes of letters all around in the studio. And he started showing me some of them. He said, "Look at these." He said, "Read this, read the," and there were stories that were like I could have written. There were thousands of these letters. And I said to him, "How did we get here? Why did you think to call me? And why did we do this whole investigation and book and everything?" And he's looked at me and he smiled. He used to call me kid. And he said, "Well, kid, that's the $64,000 question."
So your experiences didn't end with the publication of Bud's book, Intruders.
It was April of 1984. I was out piddling around in the dark of night, going to the convenience store to get fingernail polish remover or some dumb something like that. Out of the blue, I just decided I needed it all of a sudden. And coming home, I noticed these odd lights coming towards the house from the west side of Indy. And at first I thought it was an airplane. And then the lights started doing weird things, like an airplane landing lights or whatever. But then they started moving and doing weird stuff. And somehow I realized that this was no airplane. So I peeled off down the road, pulled in the driveway. I ran up to the front door and I flung the door open and I screamed to my mom. I said, "Get out here right now. You're not going to believe what I see, what's coming." She comes out on the porch with me. Here comes this thing, gliding 300 or 400 feet above the treetops. And it was absolutely massive. It filled up the whole open space above the house. It was massive. And it was like a black triangular, but yet kind of chevron-ish shape. But I could see the white light in the front, and I could see a little red light in the bottom where the two wing parts kind of met. But then all the lights came on underneath the minute that it got right above our house and above the two of us standing on the front porch looking up at it. And it was all these bars of bluish white, real white light all along the edges of this, and little white dots of light under the bottom. But this thing was massive. I remember looking at my mom. My mom's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And I am thinking, oh hell no, not again. I ran through the front door, through the house, and out the back door. It's a kitchen door. Left my mom standing on the front porch to see this thing just coming over the top of the house over to the back, right? And I'm watching this and I'm like, this thing is massive. And I'm thinking, where's it gonna go? What's it doing? As I watched it, it got right over where 465 and Brookville Road met. And then it did the weirdest thing. Instead of making a banking turn like an aircraft would, it just went, whoop, just turned on its axis, just like that. And it started coming back the way it went, only it was more north of the house at this point. So now it's going in that slow, low, huge, massive thing. The lights on the bottom were now off, but I could see the lights in the front. Mom and I are thinking this thing is so massive. Indianapolis is not a small town. And we only lived 10, 15 minutes from downtown Indy. So literally thousands of people had to see this, right? Literally. Thousands of people had to see this. It was right over 465. That's the whole loop around the highway. Right over State Road 100. We turned the radio on. I called Bud. Turned the TV on. Nothing.
Behind those eyes, I saw you walking out into the light.
Big thanks to Deb Kauble for sharing her amazing story. If you want to learn more about Deb, you can visit her website at www.debshome.com. All right, that's a wrap on this month's episode. Stay true in the meantime, and we'll see you on the next episode of Dragon Spread.